Captain Hyon floated through the broken corridors of the ancient space station, his magnetic boots clicking against the metal floor with each careful step. The emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls, making everything look haunted and dead. His team had been exploring the derelict station for 3 hours, but they had found nothing useful yet. "Captain, you need to see this," called out Specialist Jamin from somewhere deep in the station's core. His voice crackled through the comm system, filled with excitement and confusion. Hyon pushed off from the wall and drifted toward the sound of Jamin's voice. The station had been floating in dead space for over 2 centuries, according to their scans. Nobody knew who built it or why it was abandoned. The Velian defense fleet had only found it by accident during a routine patrol of the outer systems. The captain found Jamin standing in front of a massive computer terminal that somehow still had power. Green lights blinked across its surface, and strange symbols scrolled down the screen in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. "What did you find?" Hyon asked, floating closer to examine the display. "I managed to crack some of the data files," Jamin said, his fingers dancing across the alien controls. "Most of it is corrupted, but there are some military reports that survived. The translation software is having trouble with the language, but I think these are battle records." Hyon studied the scrolling text. Even with the translation errors, certain words kept appearing again and again. Words like impossible resistance and fought beyond physical limits and refused surrender despite overwhelming odds. "Look at this one," Jamin said, pulling up a specific file. "This appears to be a combat report from something called the Battle of Kepler Station. According to this, a force of 50 soldiers held off an enemy army of 10,000 for 18 days without resupply or reinforcement." "That cannot be accurate," Hyon said, frowning at the display. "No species can fight for 18 days without food or rest. The translation software must be making errors." Jamin shook his head. "I double-checked the numbers. The original symbols are clear. 50 defenders against 10,000 attackers for 18 standard days. And according to this, the defenders won." Hyon felt a chill run down his spine. He had been a soldier for 20 years and had fought in dozens of battles across the galaxy. He knew what was possible and what was not. No living being could survive 18 days of continuous combat without dying from exhaustion alone. "What does it say about these defenders?" Hyon asked. "What species were they?" Jamin scrolled through more files, his expression growing more puzzled with each page. "That is the strange part. They are called humans in these records, but that cannot be right either. Humans are just myths. Stories parents tell their children about the ghost warriors who could fight in any environment. Everyone knows humans are not real," Hyon agreed, but something about the data files made him uncomfortable. The level of detail in these reports was incredible. They included tactical analyses, weapon specifications, and medical records that seemed far too complex to be simple stories. Jamin pulled up another file, this one containing what appeared to be a medical examination report. "Look at this. According to these scans, human soldiers could function normally in environments that would kill most species within minutes. They could survive in hard vacuum for short periods, fight effectively in gravity fields ranging from 0 to 5 times galactic standard, and continue operating with injuries that would incapacitate anyone else." "Impossible," Hyon muttered, but he could not stop reading. The reports painted a picture of warriors who seemed to ignore the basic laws of biology and physics. They described battles where human soldiers fought hand-to-hand with creatures twice their size and won. They told stories of human pilots who flew damaged ships through asteroid fields that should have been certain death. "There are hundreds of these files," Jamin said, scrolling through page after page of combat reports. "Battles across dozens of star systems spanning almost 50 years. Then suddenly nothing. The records just stop." "When do they stop?" "About 300 years ago. Right around the time the last confirmed human sighting was reported to the Galactic Council." Hyon had heard those stories too. Ancient tales of the last human ship disappearing into the void, never to be seen again. Most historians believed humans had simply died out, victims of some plague or natural disaster that wiped out their entire species. "Captain," Jamin said quietly, "what if the stories are true? What if humans were real and they really could do all these impossible things?" Before Hyan could answer, his comm system activated. Admiral Nara's stern face appeared on his helmet display, her expression showing clear impatience. Captain Hyan, report. Have you found anything useful on that derelict station, or are you wasting the fleet's time? Admiral, we have discovered extensive military records that may be of significant historical interest. Hyan began carefully. Historical interest does not win battles, Captain, Nara interrupted. In case you have forgotten, the Dominion Empire has conquered 3 more systems while you have been playing archaeologist. Their fleets are advancing faster than our intelligence reports predicted. Hyan glanced at the scrolling combat report still playing across Jamin's screen. Admiral, these records describe military tactics that could be highly relevant to our current situation. They detail methods of warfare that achieved victory against overwhelming odds. What species created these records? Hyan hesitated. He knew how Nara would react to the truth. The records claim they are human military files. Admiral Nara's expression hardened immediately. Captain Hyan, you are a decorated officer with 20 years of distinguished service. I expect better from you than chasing fairy tales about mythical warriors. Admiral, with respect, the level of detail in these files suggests they may be more than simple myths. Humans are stories, Captain. Bedtime tales about impossible heroes who could defeat any enemy. The galaxy faces a real threat from the Dominion Empire, not imaginary ghosts from children's books. The connection terminated, leaving Hyan floating in the dim emergency lighting of the alien station. Around him, the ancient computers continued their eternal vigil, preserving records of battles that officially never happened. Jamin looked up from his terminal. What are your orders, Captain? Hyan stared at the flowing data streams, watching reports of impossible victories scroll past like digital ghosts. Somewhere in the distance, the Dominion Empire continued its relentless advance, conquering system after system with overwhelming force and superior technology. The Galactic Alliance was losing the war, and their traditional tactics were failing against an enemy that seemed unstoppable. Copy everything, Hyan said finally. All of it. Every file, every report, every piece of data you can extract. Sir, Admiral Nara said these were just myths. Maybe they are, Hyan admitted, watching another impossible battle report flash across the screen. But myths have power, Jamin. Sometimes the stories we tell ourselves about heroes become the inspiration we need to become heroes ourselves. As his team worked to download the ancient archives, Hyan found himself wondering about the truth behind the legends. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, were there really descendants of these mythical warriors still alive? And if the stories were true, what had become of the species that could turn hopeless battles into victories through sheer determination and impossible courage? The questions followed him as they departed the derelict station, carrying with them the digital ghosts of humanity's last recorded battles. The mining drill bit into the rocky surface of Kepler 442b with a grinding roar that echoed across the barren landscape. Taiho wiped sweat from his forehead and checked the depth readings on his scanner. They had been digging for 6 days straight, following mineral traces that promised rich deposits of rare metals deep beneath the planet's crust. How much deeper? Shouted Minsu over the noise of the machinery. The young engineer had joined the mining crew only 3 months ago, fresh from the academy and still excited about exploring distant worlds. Another 50 meters, Taiho called back. The readings show something big down there, bigger than any natural deposit we have ever seen. The outer rim mining operation was supposed to be routine work. Kepler 442b was a dead world with no atmosphere and no life. Perfect for strip mining operations that would leave ugly scars on prettier planets. The pay was good because the work was dangerous and lonely, but most of the crew preferred it that way. As the drill broke through another layer of rock, the scanner readings suddenly went crazy. Numbers flashed across the display faster than Taiho could read them, and warning lights began blinking throughout the control cabin. Shut it down, Taiho ordered, hitting the emergency stop button. The drill ground to a halt, and sudden silence fell over the mining site. What happened? Minsu asked, staring at the wildly fluctuating readings on his instruments. I do not know, Taiho admitted, studying the scanner display. According to the readings, they had just broken through into an enormous empty space beneath the surface. The cavity was huge, stretching for kilometers in all directions. Could be a natural cave system, suggested Wanho, the site geologist. Some planets have underground caverns formed by ancient water flow. Taiho shook his head. Look at these readings. The walls are too smooth and regular for a natural formation. This looks artificial. Within an hour, Dr. Soman arrived from the research station in orbit. She was the expedition's xenoarchaeologist responsible for investigating any signs of extinct civilizations they might encounter during their mining operations. Most planets in the outer rim had been surveyed centuries ago, but occasionally they found ruins from species that had died out long before the current galactic civilizations arose. "Lower me down," Dr. Samin said, checking her environmental suit and lighting equipment. "I want to see this cavity for myself." The mining crew rigged a cable system and slowly lowered her into the hole their drill had created. As she descended through 50 meters of solid rock, her suit lights began to reveal the edges of something impossible. "By the void," she whispered into her comm system. "Taiho, you need to see this." What she found was not a natural cave. It was a vast underground complex built from materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The walls were perfectly smooth and covered with symbols that hurt to look at directly. Corridors stretched away into darkness in all directions, and the air itself hummed with energy from some unknown power source. "How big is this place?" Taiho asked as the entire mining crew descended into the complex. "I have walked for 2 hours, and have not found the end of it," Dr. Samin replied, running her hands along walls covered in strange markings. "Whatever built this was incredibly advanced. The construction techniques are beyond anything in our current technology." The complex seemed to extend deep into the planet's core, with multiple levels connected by ramps and corridors that followed no logical pattern. Some rooms were vast cathedral spaces that could hold thousands of people, while others were tiny chambers barely large enough for a single individual. But it was the symbols that captured Dr. Soman's attention. They covered every surface, carved deep into the strange dark material that formed the walls. Some were simple geometric shapes, while others were incredibly complex designs that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. "I have never seen anything like this writing system," she told the crew as they explored deeper into the complex. "It appears to combine mathematical formulas with linguistic structures in ways that should not be possible." Minsu found the first clear word while examining a wall in what appeared to be a command center. The chamber was filled with dark screens and control panels that had been inactive for centuries, but the symbols above them were still clearly visible. "Dr. Samin," he called out, "I think this says something in Standard Galactic." She hurried over to examine his discovery. Among the alien symbols carved in letters she could actually read was a single word repeated dozens of times across the wall. The word was Earth. "Earth," she whispered, feeling a chill run through her environmental suit. "That is the mythical human homeworld." As they continued exploring, they found the word everywhere. Earth, carved into walls, etched into floor, panels, and displayed on inactive screens throughout the complex. But it was not just written in Standard Galactic. The same word appeared in dozens of different writing systems, some of which Dr. Soman recognized from ancient databases. "These are languages from extinct civilizations," she explained to the crew. "Species that died out thousands of years ago, long before humans were supposed to exist." In the deepest chamber they could find, Taiho made a discovery that changed everything. Behind a wall that looked exactly like all the others, his mining scanner detected a hidden room. When they figured out how to open the concealed door, they found themselves in a repository filled with information storage devices. The machines were still active, powered by the same mysterious energy source that kept the lights working throughout the complex. When Dr. Soman managed to access the data, what she found made her hands shake. Medical records, detailed biological analyses of a species that seemed impossible. The files described creatures that could survive in environments that would kill anything else within minutes. They showed bone density readings that were off the charts, muscle fiber analyses that defied explanation, and brain scans that revealed neural structures unlike anything in the known galaxy. According to these records, Dr. Soman said quietly, humans were not just real. They were engineered. Someone or something took a basic primate species and enhanced it for warfare. The medical files included genetic modification records spanning thousands of years. Someone had systematically improved human strength, speed, endurance, and intelligence generation after generation, until they created something that was barely recognizable as the original species. Why? Wanho asked, staring at brain scan images that showed neural pathways unlike anything in current medical science. Why would anyone create a species like this? Before Dr. Somin could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the mining site above them. Emergency lights bathed the underground complex in red warning flashes, and Taiho's comm system crackled to life with urgent messages from their orbital station. All personnel return to the surface immediately, commanded the voice of station. Commander Yejin. Long-range sensors have detected multiple Dominion Empire fleets moving into the system. We have maybe 6 hours before they arrive. As the mining crew scrambled to gather their equipment and evacuate the complex, Dr. Somin took one last look at the medical records still playing across the ancient screens. The data showed human soldiers who could fight for weeks without rest, survive injuries that would be instantly fatal to anyone else, and coordinate with a level of precision that made them function as a single organism. If humans really existed, she whispered to herself, and if they were really this advanced, where did they go? And why did they leave all of this behind? The questions followed her as they raced toward the surface, leaving the dark complex to its eternal silence. Behind them, the ancient machines continued their patient vigil, preserving secrets that the galaxy had forgotten and evidence of a species that refused to stay mythical. Communications specialist Ji-Wan was working the night shift at the Galactic Defense Network's monitoring station when the impossible signal came through. She had been tracking routine fleet movements and merchant vessel communications for 8 hours, fighting to stay awake as the endless stream of normal transmissions flowed across her screens. The signal was different from the moment it appeared. Instead of the usual compressed data bursts or voice communications, this transmission came through on frequencies that should have been empty. Deep space frequencies that nobody used because they required too much power and reached too far into the void. Computer, identify signal origin. Ji-Wan commanded, sitting up straighter in her chair as strange readings filled her displays. Signal origin, grid reference 847239156. Warning, grid reference 847239156 is classified as dead space. No known stellar bodies or navigation hazards present. Ji-Wan frowned at her screen. Dead space was exactly what it sounded like. Empty. Regions of the galaxy with nothing in them. No stars, no planets, no asteroid fields. Just endless black vacuum that ships avoided because there was no reason to go there. She adjusted her equipment and tried to clean up the signal. The transmission was weak and filled with interference, as if it was traveling across impossible distances to reach her station. As the audio cleared, what she heard made her blood freeze. This is Terra Command. We are coming home. The message repeated 3 times, then cut to static. Ji-Wan stared at her displays, certain she had misheard something. Terra Command was a name from old stories, ancient myths about the military headquarters of the legendary humans. It was not supposed to be real. She ran the signal through every analysis program she had, checking for hoaxes or equipment malfunctions, but the transmission appeared genuine. The signal characteristics showed it had traveled through genuine, deep space for weeks or months to reach her monitoring station. This is impossible, she whispered, playing the message again. The voice was clear and confident, speaking standard galactic with an accent she had never heard before. Terra Command does not exist. Within an hour, every senior officer in the ICE Galactic Defense Network was crowded into the monitoring station. Admiral Nara stood behind Ji-Wan's chair, her face showing a mixture of anger and confusion that made everyone nervous. Play it again, Admiral Nara commanded. This is Terra Command. We are coming home. Analysis? Nara asked the room. Intelligence Director Yuna stepped forward, her portable computer displaying signal analysis data. The transmission is genuine. No signs of artificial generation or tampering. Signal strength and frequency characteristics indicate it originated from deep space, possibly thousands of light years from any known civilization. That proves nothing, said Counselor Minho, the representative from the Inner Worlds Alliance. Anyone with sufficient technology could broadcast from dead space. This is obviously a hoax designed to distract us from the real threat. As if summoned, by his words, tactical displays throughout the room began flashing urgent warnings. The Dominion Empire had conquered 2 more systems while they were analyzing the mysterious transmission. Their war fleets continued advancing through galactic space, meeting little resistance from the scattered forces of the Alliance. The Dominion Empire is the only threat that matters, Admiral Nara declared. We cannot waste time chasing ghost signals while real enemies destroy real worlds. But Jiwan had been monitoring deep space communications longer than anyone else. In the room, she knew what normal signals looked like, and this transmission was anything but normal. The power requirements alone should have been impossible for any known technology. Admiral, she said carefully, I recommend we continue monitoring that frequency. If someone really is broadcasting from dead space, they have technology far beyond our current capabilities. Agreed, said Intelligence Director Yuna. I am deploying long-range sensor arrays to scan the origin coordinates. If there is something out there, we need to know what it is. Counselor Minho shook his head. You are wasting resources on fairy tales while the galaxy burns. The Dominion Empire has real fleets with real weapons destroying real planets. Terra Command is a myth. As if the universe wanted to prove him wrong, every communication system in the room activated at once. The same deep space frequency that had carried the first message suddenly blazed with activity. But this time, the signal was stronger and clearer. This is Terra Command to all Galactic Alliance forces. We have monitored your situation with the Dominion Empire. Resistance has been insufficient. We are moving to assist. The room fell silent. Even Counselor Minho seemed stunned by the confidence in that voice. Whoever was broadcasting spoke as if massive Dominion fleets were merely an inconvenience to be dealt with. Computer, respond on the same frequency, Admiral Nara ordered. This is Admiral Nara of the Galactic Defense Network. Identify yourself and your intentions. The response came immediately, as if the sender had been waiting for their reply. Admiral Nara, we know who you are. We have been monitoring galactic communications for some time. We are the survivors of Terra Colony Fleet 7, returning from extended deep space operations. Our arrival time at the front lines will be approximately 72 hours. Intelligence Director Yuna was already pulling up star charts and fleet movement data. Terra Colony Fleet 7 is mentioned in some of the oldest historical records. According to the archives, it was a human exploration fleet that disappeared into deep space over 300 years ago. Humans are myths, Counselor Minho insisted, but his voice lacked its earlier certainty. This is Commander Daehyun of the TCS Incheon. The transmission continued. We request tactical information on current Dominion positions and fleet strengths. We prefer to minimize collateral damage when possible. Admiral Nara looked around the room at faces filled with confusion and disbelief. The Dominion Empire commanded fleets numbering in the thousands of ships. Their technology was superior to anything the Galactic Alliance possessed. Yet this mysterious transmission spoke as if the Dominion was simply another tactical problem to be solved. Computer, transmit current tactical situation to the signal origin, she ordered. Admiral, you cannot be serious, Counselor Minho protested. You are sending classified military information to an unknown contact based on claims that they represent a mythical species. Unknown contact or not, Admiral Nara replied grimly, we are losing this war. If someone claims they can help, I want to know what they can do. The response came back within minutes, faster than should have been possible given the transmission delays across interstellar distances. Data received and analyzed. Dominion tactical doctrine appears unchanged. From historical records, their fleet positions show predictable patterns. We will engage the Altair system fleet first to demonstrate our capabilities. Jiwan quickly pulled up tactical displays of the Altair system. The Dominion had positioned over 200 warships there, using the system as a staging area for attacks deeper into Alliance territory. It was one of their strongest positions, defended by some of their most advanced vessels. Commander Daehyun, Admiral Nara transmitted, the Altair system is heavily defended. Dominion fleet strength there includes multiple dreadnoughts and hundreds of support vessels. A direct assault would require massive forces. Understood, Admiral. We will handle the situation appropriately. Terra, command out. The transmission ended, leaving the monitoring station in uncomfortable silence. Throughout the room, officers stared at displays showing the overwhelming strength of Dominion forces positioned at Altair. The idea that anyone could challenge such a fleet seemed impossible. Long-range sensors are detecting energy signatures moving through deep space, reported Intelligence Director Yuna, studying data from their most advanced detection equipment. 3 large objects on intercept course for the Altair system. 3 objects? Admiral Nara asked. 3 ships against 200? According to sensor readings, the objects are large enough to be capital ships, but their energy signatures do not match anything in our databases. They appear to be using some form of propulsion we do not recognize. Counselor Minho was reviewing the tactical situation on his personal display. This is insane. 3 unknown vessels against the largest Dominion fleet in this sector. It will be a massacre. Yes, Admiral Nara agreed quietly. The question is, who will be massacred? As they watched their sensors track the mysterious ships toward their confrontation with the Dominion Empire, Jiwan found herself wondering if the galaxy was about to discover that some myths were more real than anyone had imagined. The ships from dead space continued their steady approach toward Altair, carrying with them the possibility that humanity had never really disappeared. They had simply been waiting in the darkness for the right moment to return. Captain Hyon stood on the bridge of the reconnaissance ship Vigilant, watching long-range sensors track 3 unknown vessels as they approached the Altair system. His orders were simple: observe and report. Admiral Nara wanted detailed intelligence on whatever was about to happen when the mysterious ships encountered the massive Dominion fleet. Distance to Altair defensive perimeter, Hyon asked his navigation officer. 50,000 kilometers, Captain. Close enough to observe the engagement, but far enough to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. The Dominion had turned Altair into one of their strongest positions. Over 200 warships patrolled the system, including some of their newest Dreadnought-class vessels. Each Dreadnought was the size of a small moon and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. Captain, called out sensor operator Yunjin. The unknown vessels are dropping out of faster than light travel. They are entering the system now. Hyon studied the tactical display as 3 shapes appeared on his screens. The ships were unlike anything he had ever seen. They were massive, easily the size of Dominion dreadnoughts, but their designs followed no known engineering principles. Instead of the blocky, functional appearance of most military vessels, these ships seemed to flow like liquid metal given solid form. Energy readings? Hyon asked. Off the charts, Captain. Whatever powers those ships is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. The Dominion response was immediate and overwhelming. Admiral Korthek, the Dominion commander at Altair, launched every ship under his command toward the intruders. 200 warships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charging for what should have been the shortest battle in military history. "This is Admiral Korthek of the Dominion 7th Fleet," came the broadcast across all frequencies. "Unknown vessels, you will surrender immediately or be destroyed." The response came from the lead ship in a voice that sent chills down Hyun's spine. "This is Commander Daehyun of the TCS Incheon. Admiral Korthek, you have 30 seconds to order your fleet to stand down. After that, we will consider you hostile and respond accordingly." Admiral Korthek's laughter echoed across the communication channels. 3 ships against 200? You are either insane or incredibly stupid. 20 seconds, Admiral. "Open fire," Korthek ordered. "Destroy all 3 vessels." What happened next redefined everything Hyun thought he knew about space warfare. As the Dominion fleet opened fire with enough weapons to glass a planet, the 3 human ships simply vanished. Where did they go? Hyun demanded, staring at empty space where the ships had been a moment before. I do not know, Captain, Yunjin replied, frantically adjusting her sensors. They did not jump to faster than light travel. They just disappeared. The answer came seconds later when the TCS Incheon materialized directly in the center of the Dominion formation. Somehow, the massive ship had moved instantly from the edge of the system to the heart of the enemy fleet without crossing the space between. Impossible, Hyun whispered, watching his instruments track weapons fire that should not exist. The human ship was not using energy beams or missile systems like every other military vessel in the galaxy. Instead, it was firing projectiles that moved at significant fractions of light speed and seemed to ignore defensive shields entirely. The Dominion Dreadnought destroyer was the first to die. A single projectile from the Incheon punched through, its shields, armor, and hull as if they were paper. The massive ship broke apart in a series of explosions that lit up the entire system. How is this possible? Sensor operator Yunjin asked, her voice filled with disbelief. That dreadnought had enough shielding to stop anything we have ever built. The TCS Busan appeared next, materializing behind a group of Dominion cruisers and opening fire with weapons that seemed to bend space itself. Ships that had been in perfect formation suddenly found themselves twisted into impossible shapes before exploding in balls of compressed matter. The third ship, TCS Seoul, took a different approach. Instead of using its main weapons, it launched what appeared to be boarding pods toward a cluster of Dominion vessels. The pods moved faster than anything Jan had ever seen, crossing thousands of kilometers in seconds. Are they actually boarding enemy ships in the middle of a space battle? He asked, certain his sensors must be malfunctioning. Confirmed, Captain. Multiple boarding pods have penetrated Dominion vessels. I am reading massive internal explosions throughout their fleet. Within minutes, over 50 Dominion ships had gone silent, not destroyed but simply dead in space with no signs of life aboard. Whatever the human boarding teams were doing, they were neutralizing entire ships without damaging the vessels themselves. Admiral Korthek's voice came across the communication channels, no longer confident, but filled with growing panic. All ships retreat to secondary positions. Reform defensive lines around the orbital stations. But there were no secondary positions. The 3 human ships moved through space like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will while systematically dismantling the Dominion fleet. They used tactics that seemed impossible, weapons that defied known physics, and coordination that made them function as a single entity rather than separate vessels. Captain, Yunjin reported, I am detecting massive energy buildup from the TCS Incheon. Whatever they are preparing to do, it requires more power than anything I have ever measured. The human ship positioned itself directly in front of the largest Dominion orbital station, a massive defensive platform armed with planet-killing weapons. For a moment, both forces seemed frozen in space, the station's weapons trained on the Incheon while the human ship prepared some unknown attack. When the Incheon fired, reality seemed to break. A beam of pure energy connected the ship to the station, but instead of exploding, the massive platform simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, but gone as if it had never been built. What kind of weapon can do that? Hyun asked the empty air, knowing nobody on his ship had any answers. The battle, if it could be called a battle, lasted exactly 57 minutes. When it ended, the entire Dominion 7th Fleet was either destroyed, disabled, or had surrendered. 3 human ships had defeated over 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy without taking any visible damage. TCS Incheon to Galactic Alliance vessel Vigilant, came Commander Daehyun's voice across their communication system. Captain Hyon, please prepare to receive a diplomatic party. Admiral Nara requested a full briefing on our capabilities. Okay? Do you know my name? Hyun asked, though he was no longer surprised that the humans seemed to know everything. We have been monitoring galactic communications for some time, Captain. Your discovery of the archive records at Station Omega-7 was particularly interesting. We were wondering when someone would find those files. An hour later, Hyun found himself face to face with the first confirmed human in 300 years. Commander Daehyun was tall and lean, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. He looked completely ordinary, which somehow made him more unsettling than if he had appeared obviously alien. "You are smaller than the stories claimed," Hyun admitted as they shook hands in the human fashion. Daehyun smiled, an expression that did not reach his eyes. "We learned long ago that being underestimated is a significant tactical advantage. The galaxy forgot we existed, which made it much easier to prepare for our return." "Prepare for what exactly?" "For this war," Daehyun replied, gesturing toward the debris field that had once been the Dominion 7th Fleet. "We saw the Dominion Empire forming 3 centuries ago. Their expansion patterns were predictable, and we knew they would eventually threaten the core worlds. So we withdrew to the galactic rim to build better ships, train better soldiers, and develop better weapons." "You spent 300 years preparing for a single war. Captain Hyun, humans do not abandon their responsibilities. When we withdrew from galactic civilization, we did not disappear. We simply moved to where we could work without interference. The galaxy needed guardians, even if they did not know it yet." Hyun looked out at the 3 human ships floating among the wreckage of what had been the Dominion's strongest fleet. "What do you want from us?" "Complete operational control of all Alliance military forces," Daehyun replied without hesitation. "We will end this war, but we will do it our way. The Dominion Empire has never faced an enemy that refuses to follow conventional rules of engagement. The Galactic Council will never agree to that." "Then they will lose this war and watch their worlds burn," Daehyun said calmly. "We are offering victory, Captain. The question is whether your leaders are desperate enough to accept help from myths that turned out to be real." As Hyun prepared his report for Admiral Nara, he realized that the galaxy was about to discover what happened when humans stopped hiding in the darkness and returned to the battlefield. The Galactic Council's emergency session lasted 18 hours before they finally accepted humanity's terms. Admiral Nara stood before the massive assembly, her face showing the exhaustion of someone who had argued with politicians while worlds burned around them. "The motion passes," announced Council Speaker Jinwoo, his voice heavy with reluctance. "Operational command of all Alliance military forces is transferred to Terra Command, effective immediately." Within hours, everything changed. Commander Daehyun's orders reached every ship, every base, and every soldier in the Alliance. Traditional formations were abandoned. Standard tactics were thrown out. Centuries of military doctrine became irrelevant overnight. Lieutenant Minji received her new assignment while stationed aboard the Alliance cruiser Determination. She had been a Marine for 6 years, specializing in boarding actions and close quarters combat. Her record was excellent, her skills were proven, and she thought she understood warfare. She was wrong. "You will be working with human tactical advisors," her captain explained, looking as confused as she felt. "Apparently, everything we know about ship-to-ship combat is obsolete." The human advisor turned out to be Colonel Jihoon, a man who looked young enough to be her brother, but spoke with the authority of someone who had commanded battles across multiple star systems. His first briefing challenged every assumption about modern warfare. "Your Alliance tactics are designed to minimize casualties and preserve equipment," he explained to the assembled officers. "This is admirable but ineffective against an enemy that views you as resources to be harvested, rather than opponents to be respected." "What do you recommend?" asked Captain Dongyun, the ship's commander. "Total warfare," Jihoon replied simply. "The Dominion Empire understands only strength and fear. We will give them both in quantities they cannot comprehend." Minji's first mission under human command was an assault on the Dominion stronghold at Vega Prime. The planet was defended by orbital fortresses that had never been successfully attacked, protected by energy shields that could stop any known weapon. The human plan was unlike anything in Alliance tactical manuals. Instead of the traditional approach of wearing down defenses with prolonged bombardment, Jihoon ordered a direct boarding assault on the fortresses themselves. "Boarding assault?" Minji asked, certain she had misunderstood. "Sir, those fortresses are in orbit. We cannot reach them with conventional boarding pods." You are correct, Ji-hoon agreed. Conventional boarding pods would be destroyed long before reaching their targets. We will not be using conventional methods. What they used instead defied every law of physics Minji thought she understood. The human transport ships launched boarding pods that moved at impossible speeds, crossing thousands of kilometers in seconds while somehow avoiding defensive fire that should have obliterated them instantly. How are we not dead? Minji asked, as her pod punched through the fortress's outer hull without slowing down. Temporal displacement fields, explained Sergeant Kyungmin, the human soldier leading her team. We are moving through space faster than their targeting systems can track, but from our perspective, time is flowing normally. The boarding action that followed redefined Minji's understanding of combat. The human soldiers moved through the fortress-like living weapons, coordinating with precision that made them function as a single organism. They did not fight like individuals supporting each other. They fought like parts of one massive thinking machine. Room clear, Kyungmin announced as the last defender fell. They had neutralized a fortress designed to house 5,000 soldiers in less than 20 minutes, using only 12 boarding specialists. How? Minji asked, staring at corridors filled with unconscious but uninjured Dominion troops. Non-lethal, neural disruptors, Kyungmin explained, showing her a weapon unlike anything in Alliance arsenals. We prefer to capture rather than kill when possible. Dead enemies provide no intelligence. The assault on Vega Prime lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 3 orbital fortresses had been captured intact, along with their entire complements of soldiers and equipment. The Dominion defenders had been neutralized so quickly they never had time to destroy sensitive information or issue warnings to other installations. Admiral Kelvek, the Dominion commander at Vega Prime, found himself prisoner aboard, his own flagship after human boarding teams captured it, while he was still trying to understand what was happening. His interrogation revealed tactical information that changed the entire scope of the war. They have been planning this expansion for over 50 years, Intelligence Director Yuna reported to the human command staff. The Dominion Empire has detailed invasion plans for every major world in the galaxy, including Earth. Earth? Commander Daehyun asked, his expression becoming dangerously cold. According to Admiral Kelvek's files, they have been searching for the human homeworld for centuries. They believe it contains technology that would make them unstoppable. They are correct, Daehyun replied quietly. Earth does contain such technology. We left certain things behind when we departed for the galactic rim. The revelation that Earth still existed sent shockwaves through both human and Alliance forces. Most people had assumed the legendary human homeworld was either destroyed or lost in some cosmic disaster. The idea that it was still intact, hidden, somewhere in space changed everything. Where is Earth? Admiral Nara asked during the next strategic planning session. In a location the Dominion will never find, Daehyun replied. We moved it. Moved it? Admiral Nara repeated, certain she had misunderstood. You moved an entire planet? We moved the entire solar system, Ji-hoon corrected. Earth, Luna, Mars, and the asteroid belt were relocated to a position outside normal space-time. The technology required nearly destroyed us, but it was necessary to protect our most important resources. Minji was beginning to understand why humans had become legends. They did not just fight wars or solve problems. They redefined the fundamental rules of reality to achieve their objectives. Moving an entire star system was not tactics or strategy. It was applied physics on a scale that made gods jealous. The war continued with human forces demonstrating capabilities that seemed more like magic than military technology. Ships that could exist in multiple locations simultaneously. Soldiers who could survive in hard vacuum for hours without protection. Weapons that fired projectiles through dimensional portals to strike targets on the other side of the galaxy. But it was the coordination that impressed Minji most. Human forces functioned with precision that made Alliance military units look like children playing war games. Every soldier knew exactly where every other soldier was at all times. Every ship captain understood the intentions of every other ship captain without needing communication. How do you coordinate so perfectly? she asked Sergeant Kyungmin after watching his team execute a flawless assault on a Dominion research station. Quantum entanglement communication implants, he explained, tapping the side of his head. Every human soldier is connected to every other human soldier through instantaneous neural links. We do not fight as individuals. We fight as one mind, controlling thousands of bodies. That should not be possible. Many things should not be possible, Kyungmin agreed, but humans have never been particularly concerned with what should or should not be possible. We are more interested in what we can make possible. As the Dominion Empire found itself fighting an enemy that refused to follow any known rules of engagement, their confidence began to crack. Fleets that had never known defeat were being systematically destroyed by forces that appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. Emperor Vorthak himself took personal command of the war effort, moving his capital ships to the front lines in an attempt to stop the human advance. His flagship, the Eternal Dominion, was the largest and most powerful vessel ever constructed, armed with weapons that could shatter moons and protected by shields that had never been penetrated. "Let them come," he declared to his assembled admirals. "I want to see what these mythical humans can accomplish against the full might of the Dominion Empire." He was about to find out that some myths were far more dangerous than reality had ever been. The final battle began at the Dominion capital world of Xerion Prime. Emperor Vorthak had gathered the biggest fleet in galactic history there. 5,000 warships floated in space around his homeworld. Their combined firepower could destroy entire star systems. The planet itself had orbital defense systems built over hundreds of years. Layer after layer of shields and weapons made the world look impossible to attack. Captain Hyon stood on the bridge of his scout ship. He was now working as a link between human and Alliance forces. His ship stayed at the edge of the system, far enough to watch safely but close enough to help with communications between the huge fleets getting ready to fight. "How many human ships?" he asked his sensor operator. 12 big ships, sir. The command ship is called TCS Earth's Vengeance." Hyon looked at the battle display. He felt cold fear run through him. 12 ships against 5,000. Even knowing what humans could do, those numbers seemed crazy. But Admiral Seojin, the top human commander, had told the Alliance that numbers did not matter when your enemy still used old fighting methods. "This is Emperor Vorthak of the Dominion Empire," came the message on all communication channels. His voice sounded proud, like someone who had never lost a battle. "I speak to the things calling themselves human. You have caused enough trouble for my expansion plans. Give up now and I will give you quick deaths." The answer came from Admiral Seojin herself. She spoke from the bridge of the TCS Earth's Vengeance. Her voice was calm and cold. It carried the power of someone who had led battles across many galaxies. "Emperor Vorthak, this is Admiral Seojin of the Terran Defense Force. We are not things. We are not myths. We are human, and we do not give up." "Then you will die like all the other species that came before you," Vorthak said back. "All ships, start firing. Destroy every human ship." What happened next was not really a battle. It was proof of why humanity had become legends across the galaxy. The Dominion fleet started firing with enough weapons to wreck a dozen planets. Energy beams that could burn through stars hit the small human group. Millions of missiles flew across space toward the human ships. None of it worked. The human ships did not try to dodge the attack. Instead, they seemed to drink in the energy. Their metal hulls absorbed power that should have destroyed them right away. As the huge attack continued, the human ships began to glow with stolen energy. They were storing the Dominion's own weapon, power to use for themselves. "That cannot be possible," Emperor Vorthak whispered. He watched his strongest weapons fail to even scratch the human ships. "Your weapons look good," Admiral Seojin said back. Her voice came across the communication channels with deadly calm. "Thank you for giving us extra power." The TCS Earth's Vengeance fired one shot back. The thing that came from its main gun was not a missile or energy beam. It was something that seemed to bend space around itself. It moved through the Dominion fleet like a law of nature instead of a weapon. Everything it touched just stopped existing. 100 Dominion ships disappeared in the first second. Not blown up or destroyed, but erased from reality like they had never been built. The shot kept going through the fleet. It cut a path of total destruction. It left behind only empty space where some of the best warships in the galaxy had been, moments before. "What kind of weapon is that?" Hyun asked. He stared at his displays in shock. "Reality control," said Jihoon. He was working as Hyun's human tactical helper. "We learned to use the basic forces that control reality itself as weapons. That shot makes anything it touches stop existing completely." The battle kept going, but calling it a battle was being nice. The human ships moved through the Dominion fleet like hunters killing prey. Their weapons changed the laws of physics with each shot. Some fired things that existed in many dimensions at once. They hit targets that thought they were safely hidden behind other ships. Others used gravity control to crush whole groups of ships into tiny balls of pressed metal. But the boarding attacks really showed how much humans had evolved. Lieutenant Minji now led her own assault team. She attacked Emperor Vorthak's main ship in a way that changed what anyone thought was possible. Her transport ship got close to the Eternal Dominion, while shifted slightly out of normal space and time. This let it pass through the huge ships, shields and armor like they were just empty air. When her team appeared inside the main ship's bridge, they faced the most powerful person in the known galaxy. Emperor Vorthak was huge even by Dominion standards. He stood nearly 3 meters tall. Mechanical parts covered his body and gave him superhuman strength and speed. His personal guards were the best fighters alive. They were warriors who had conquered 1,000 worlds and never lost. The fight lasted exactly 11 seconds. Minji moved like liquid lightning. Her improved reflexes and brain connections let her track and respond to threats faster than her enemies could think. Her weapons fired rounds that changed direction while flying. They curved around barriers to hit targets that should have been impossible to reach. But her team working together made the real difference. The 12 human soldiers worked as one being. Each one knew exactly where the others were and what they were doing every moment. They did not fight as individuals helping each other. They fought as one creature with 12 bodies. Against such perfect teamwork, even the best Dominion forces could do nothing. "How is this possible?" Emperor Vorthak said with difficulty. "Neural disruptor rounds brought down his guards without killing them. We evolved," Minji said simply. She put restraint devices on the most powerful being in the galaxy. "While you conquered worlds and gathered power, we became something better than what we were before." Capturing Emperor Vorthak ended the battle and broke the Dominion Empire forever. Without their absolute leader, the remaining Dominion forces gave up or ran away to distant systems. There they would not threaten galactic civilization anymore. Admiral Seojin stood in the meeting room of the TCS Earth's Vengeance. Representatives from every major government in the galaxy surrounded her. The war was over. The Dominion Empire was defeated. The galaxy was safe. But everyone in the room understood that everything had changed forever. "What happens now?" asked Admiral Nara. She spoke for the Alliance leadership. "Now we rebuild," Admiral Seojin said back. "The galaxy has been hurt by this war. Worlds need to be fixed. Civilizations need help getting back on their feet. New defenses need to be built against future threats." "And humans?" asked Council Speaker Jinwoo. "Will you hide again, watching from the shadows like before?" Admiral Seojin looked out through the meeting room windows at the stars beyond. "We never really left, Speaker Jinwoo. We just worked from places where others could not see us. The galaxy will always need guardians. This is true even if they prefer those guardians to stay invisible." Captain Hyun realized he was watching the end of one time period and the beginning of another. Humanity had returned to the galaxy not as conquerors but as protectors. They showed abilities that made them living legends, but they kept the wisdom to step back when their work was done. "The universe is huge," Admiral Seojin continued. "There are always new threats coming from the empty space between stars. We will be watching for them. We will prepare for them. We will be ready to respond when the galaxy needs us again." When the meeting ended, representatives went back to their home governments. Hyun found himself alone with Commander Dae-hyun on the observation deck of the human main ship. Will we see you again? Hyun asked. Daehyun smiled. It was the first real expression of warmth Hyun had seen from any human during the whole war. Captain, humans have been part of this galaxy for thousands of years. We will always be here. In one form or another. You just might not always know we are watching. And Earth? Will anyone ever see the human homeworld? Maybe, Daehyun said back. He looked out at the stars. When the galaxy is ready to understand that some myths are more real than reality itself. Some legends are just truths waiting for the right moment to show themselves. The human fleet left Zirion Prime as quietly as it had come. It disappeared into the empty space between stars. But across the galaxy, children would grow up hearing new stories. Stories about the return of the Ghost Warriors. The species that could turn hopeless battles into victories through determination and impossible courage. The humans were gone again, but they were no longer myths. They were guardians watching from the darkness, ready to return whenever the galaxy needed heroes who refused to give up, no matter what the odds were against them. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to heal from the wounds of war. Destroyed worlds were rebuilt. Scattered populations found their families again. New trade routes connected civilizations that had been cut off during the Dominion occupation. But in quiet moments between celebrations and rebuilding efforts, people would look up at the stars and wonder, were the humans still out there, watching and waiting? The answer, though they would never know it for certain, was always yes. Humanity had returned to keep their promise as guardians of the galaxy. They would never abandon that responsibility again. The myths had become real. The legends would continue as long as there were stars in the sky, and those who needed protection from the darkness between them.